proposal that would rename Boulevard in honor of Richmond native and tennis star Arthur Ashe is being considered this evening. The idea was proposed earlier this week by one of Ashe's family members.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Soulful Conversation with Frank and
Sheila Battle.
This is a special Soulful Conversation.
Yes. This one is going to be short and sweet, ladies and gentlemen. We want to call this one a public service announcement.
Yes.
For this, and this is especially for our audience members who live in Central Virginia, in beautiful RVA, especially those who are concentrated in the 60 square miles that is Richmond City. We have a special guest in the studio, and his name is David Harris Jr.
Hello. David Harris Jr. If you're in RVA and you have turned your TV on
recently,
yes, you should know that name.
Yes.
And if you don't,
you're going to find out about it tonight. You're going to find out about it now.
Go to your local news app, newspaper, and read about it.
All right, but we're going to break it down a little bit for the public tonight. David and his family are dear, close friends of ours. We love them. Spent almost 20 years together in a faith community. And when I found out that David had resurrected this idea around renaming the boulevard, I wanted to do whatever we could here at the battle station to support that.
Yes.
And so that's the purpose of this short PSA. We just wanted to let you all hear from the man himself. I know that there have been council meetings and town halls and all types of things like that. And people, for whatever reasons, might not have been able to physically be there and attend those events. And so we wanted to give David a chance to share his heart around this idea, around this concept, and talk to you all so that you would know where all of this came from and how it started. We also want to publicly say that the battle station is in full support of the renaming of the boulevard after this iconic pioneer who was born right here in Richmond City. And so David, talk to us about this larger than life,
awesome,
incredible athlete,
yes.
Who in your eyes was onk, but was this an amazing individual off the court.
Yes. Well, off the court, as we know, he accomplished a lot. When it came to, I guess, his love for the people, love for equality and diversity. And he fought for a lot of things, apartheid and AIDS research and Heart Association. And, he reached out and touched a lot of lives, a lot of hearts across the world and in his hometown. As you know, he's probably one of Richmond's greatest sons.
Yes.
If there is an argument that he didn't do anything for Richmond or he did not like Richmond, is truly false, because if you don't put in your final request to be buried next to your mother in the city of Richmond, if you don't like somewhere,
right?
So anybody that has that notion or thought, that's a farce, because you're not going to ask to be buried somewhere you don't like,
right?
I don't care who you are, I don't care how much money you have. You don't want to be buried somewhere you don't like.
Right. So before there was a Serena and a Venus, this man was opening doors and creating spaces for these athletes to walk through. How surreal was it for him to play at the level that he played in the time in which he played?
But right. Before you answer that, I want you to say the name of the person that we are talking about, because we have listeners down in other places.
Oh, that's right.
That may not know exactly what we're talking about. So he's going to tell us who we're talking about.
We are talking about Arthur Ashe Jr.
Yes. Thank you, husband. Thank you. See, this is why we do this together, because David and I can get on the phone or go to a restaurant and just talk and talk and forget that everybody else don't know what we're talking about. So I apologize. Yes, we are talking about the legendary, the iconic pro tennis athlete and humanitarian Arthur Ashe. But back to that question, because I remember being little and growing up and in Philly, and my family was screaming because this black man was winning, winning these tournaments and winning these championships. And I mean, I never seriously played tennis. I tried, but it didn't matter if that wasn't your sport. You were just so happy to see him at his best, at his peak, and winning these championships. So how was that? Because this is the 70s. This is back. This isn't like the way we look at sports now. Right.
Well, I was young in the 70s, but however, I did get a chance. I did experience what his celebrity was like, and simple things of going to the grocery store or just going to the movies. He would stop and sign autographs or speak. There wasn't, I don't think I ever saw him turn somebody away when we were just trying to do something normal and casual. And he was always a gracious host. He was always gracious to people that knew him or had a story or an experience, because all of us have had some type of experience with what he's done. Right. Regardless of how old you are at this point, you know something. I mean, from, I guess people in their 90s or 100s could tell you, I remember what he did or didn't do, and they have some type of story where they experienced or somebody knew them and they had a story, which is something I've truly been running into a lot of lately. So the surrealness it's amazing, because my experience, of course, is different than everybody else's. Right. So it's like your favorite uncle. You want to hang out with him. He's always busy. However, when he does come in, you hang out, and it's just regular. But to know that his celebrity went everywhere. Yeah, worldwide. Yeah, and the fact that folks embraced him even after he had denounced his illness and didn't, nothing changed for him. Right. Other than, I now have to let you know that this is what I have and this is where it came from. And which, once he revealed that this is what I have and how he got it, that changed how they started screening blood. Right. And cleaning, and so now, so from that aspect, he's touched a lot of people at this point, and still doing it. Yeah. Even from the grave. So, it's a, it's a monumental thing when you think about it. And so at some point I realized that I could no longer sit still. As a family, we've been rather quiet. My aunt's done everything. She's handled all the stuff. And so, this stemmed from an opportunity, from a question. So let's tell the people. And a conversation. Yeah, let's tell the people, what exactly is the goal? What is the mission here? The mission here for me is, one, to still honor his legacy, but the issues that have been cited with the building, because he's had, the honoring him with the building was done many decades ago. Right. So it's now the building has come into disrepair. It's an eyesore. I'm not going to an extent. It's not, as you can tell, it's not well maintained if you ride by it. So it was somebody placed a bug in my ear. I don't know if it was a bird or what. Gave me a little message and said, hey, there's a possibility that they might want to take down the Arthur Ashe Center. So I said, well, let me have a conversation. Right. So I had a conversation with a couple city officials several years ago. They didn't really commit to that, saying that it would be, but there was redevelopment slated for that whole corridor and improving, the diamond and et cetera. So I thought of which I thought would be an easy compromise, since they couldn't maintain the building and the thoughts of tearing down the building and they need the land to build something else. My thought was, well, okay, if you tear down the building, just name the boulevard, Arthur Ashe Boulevard, and we're good. Because street signs are easier to maintain than a whole building, evidently. And, with the projected costs that I've heard, I'm not going to say them or commit to them, that it would cost to bring the building back up to standards is too big of a burden, one on the city and two on the school systems who hold the property.
Right.
That was my rationale, my thinking. It wasn't to inconvenience anybody. It wasn't to reduce anybody's property value, because my idea is that, you have an iconic person, you can put their name on the street, your property value should go up because you're going to have other outside investment. Or folks who live in the city who decide they want to be entrepreneurs, and then they can invest in their own city and create a new business and create new jobs, which then ends up creating new tax revenue.
Right. So all of that sounds absolutely logical, but let's talk about the other side of this coin. So you were in the paper.
Absolutely.
You were on the news. But you were in the paper today.
Yes.
And there is a stated concern where there are people who live on that corridor who are saying, if this was going to happen, it should have come from us. We should not be made to feel like this is being forced on us because of whatever inconvenience it might be for the businesses and the residents who live on that corridor. But you have somehow managed to get support from several business groups who occupy space and pay taxes also on that strip. What do you want to say to the residents? I hear your heart about legacy and wanting to honor your uncle. I know you well enough to know that your intent is not to do so at the expense of someone else's harm or detriment.
Correct.
And like you said, your family has been quiet for a really long time. And in certain seasons of Richmond City history, you all could have kicked up a little dust around the condition of the building. The Arthur Ashe Center, you all could have kicked up a little dust around all of the flurry of activity that happened with the monument. You all could have been,
very, very vocal.
Yes,
we could.
You could have been. I was going to say they could have been hell raisers, but his mama too sweet for that. But this seems to be a simple, easy compromise. I understand this is the third or fourth time this has come up, but so that the narrative doesn't get put out there by people who don't know you, don't know your family, don't know your heart, don't understand the real reason why. The people who are just watching sound bites and, catching it here and there. What do you want to say to those people to let them know that this was never intended for harm?
Right. You are correct in that. No, it was never intended for harm. It was intended to encourage more involvement. My team and I, five gentlemen that stepped up and offered me help. I took it to them. All of them are in some form of media and marketing, and they helped me get through to where we are. They helped me develop the logo, or we developed the logo together, and we poured over it painstakingly. We poured over the message. We poured over the ideas and some of the hurdles that might be encountered. and we talked it up. We hashed it over. One of the guys we spent evenings in his living room with big old sticky notes all over the wall with our ideas and how we can have an opportunity to make an advancement in this city and benefit ultimately the children of the city, because that's our greatest concern. So being that my uncle was a huge proponent for education, huge proponent for the kids, huge proponent for a healthy lifestyle in sports, we took all those ideas and put them together. So what we decided, what we were thinking, and what we hashed out was that, one, with doing the renaming, we find a way to encourage those citizens of the city of Richmond and outside of the city limits, the county, folks from the county, that somehow we'd be able to get folks back into helping out the schools. Because right now, everybody's talking about, oh, they don't have money, et cetera. But if you don't go there and help them, help them get their PTAs back going, I mean, I don't care if you care about the kids, you're not going to sit here and just say, oh, what about the kids? You're taking money from the kids. Well, let's get active and get with the kids, right? Because they shouldn't have to go home hungry on Friday. They should be able to eat 7 days a week. I know there's some programs out there that says, I know there was a backpack where they would send, or a bag, food with the kids so that they could eat over the weekend. On a Monday morning, your kids shouldn't be going to school hungry.
Yeah.
I mean, the poverty is high. So our thing was, well, if we can find a way to benefit the schools with the naming, because the kids are still learning about him. I even had a kid in my church. He came to me and said he saw me in the back of a book. So I was like, well, which book is it? I knew what book it was, but because he did a book report. And so with the book report, I was probably 16, 17. I was young. So I was like, he still recognized me, in the back of the book. So he was one of my other inspirations to say, look, I got to do something. So
you are trying to mobilize a community around a movement. This naming, the changing of the name of the boulevard is one step among many towards a bigger goal. Like you said, not micro, macro. You're thinking much bigger than that.
Much bigger than that.
And these neighbors, I think, can get around that, can get behind that if they know that this is bigger than I got to change all my bills and I got to change all of this and I got to change all of that, which never happens immediately anyway. Right. Those of us who live in Chesterfield remember being Richmond, and then we were Chesterfield, and then we were North Chesterfield. All of this stuff takes time. Tell people who want to support you in this effort and want to be a part of this movement, how can they get in touch with you? Do you guys have a website? Do you have an email? Are you on social media?
There are some social media. We're tweaking those right now to make sure we're in compliance. Okay. So bear with us on that. We want to be smart about it.
Absolutely.
And so how they can get involved right now is, if you have an objection, formulate a very well-informed, educated objection. Don't just say, it's going to take me time to change my address. I understand that. Yeah. I can dig it. I used to be a collection agent. And one of the first things I did when I called the client to collect on their past due credit card was, we went through certain things that they had to identify themselves with. Right. So, maybe your last 4 digits. What is your secret password? You
can't ask for passwords. That's a violation.
Well, back then it was a little different. If you had a PIN number or something like that, what was your favorite color? What was your first car? And ultimately, we asked to verify your address. Yeah. And so if it was something different from what you said, we immediately updated for you.
Right.
It wasn't an issue, And nowadays, I mean, if you think about it, if you go into the store and they ask you do you want to sign up for a rewards card? What do?
Right.
You give them your address. You know, you just gave them, they just made money off of you without even selling anything. And then they're still going to sell you what they want to sell you because you need to get your stuff and you're just giving out your address. So I understand you feel it's an inconvenience to update your address. It's not really, in my opinion. I mean, I don't want to lessen that emotion and that feeling. You know, I understand. But for those who have objectives, please just give us a well-formulated objection. That way I can sit down and analyze it and chop it up and figure out.
So how would they get that to you?
They can send it to their city council person. They can send it to Kim Gray.
To Kim Gray.
Councilwoman Kim Gray.
Councilwoman.
She's a sponsor of it.
Okay. And this really just started with a conversation.
Absolutely.
It was just a question. Just a what if.
What if?
And now here we are. You're on the news.
Yes.
Your picture is in the paper. You look sharp. You look sharp in the paper.
I'm glad. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I give you a hard time. So
I wanted to give
is do his props. I want to give him his props. You look nice.
Well, you know, Frank's my mentor, so I have to make sure I look good for him.
Man, come on now. You know,
I didn't want to disappoint. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh.
I had to bring it.
Yeah. You know, one thing I appreciate about I don't know if you remember this or not. I remember one time when we talked about this when it was on the low, and you made yourself a promise and to your family. You said that you would not allow it to get messy.
Right, right.
And I you were going for it. I appreciated that. And so those that are, you know, have objection, just keep that in mind. Yeah. That the heart of this matter is not about, you know, someone trying to, you know, just shake up something. It's
just for kicks.
Just for kicks.
Yeah, I don't have time.
This isn't political. This isn't political at all. This is absolutely about honor.
It's about honor.
It's about honor.
It's about Richmond getting further on the map, getting bigger. And to be honest, I have to thank the VMFA for stepping up and offering up the space.
Absolutely.
Because they didn't have to. I didn't pay a dime for this.
Wow.
As I told the Scott's Edition board when I met with them, there's no budget.
There's no budget.
There's no budget.
Right.
So, and the joke amongst my partners, my peers, is that right now we only pay in T-shirts. So if you helped out, we'll give you a T-shirt. You know what I mean?
T-shirt. And they're nice T-shirts too. Just by the way.
And so, you know,
very nice T-shirts.
And so, you know, like I said, the VMFA stepped up and said, "Hey, you can have the public hearing here."
Wow.
You know, we didn't have to go to City Hall.
And they're on the boulevard.
Right. They're on the boulevard.
And they would be affected.
They are one of the largest supporters.
Yeah.
And they are one of the largest entities that prints letterhead.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They put up more letterhead than anybody on the boulevard.
Wow.
Probably more than DMV. But they put out so much because of what they do.
Yeah.
And the museum next door, which is the Virginia Museum of History and Culture now.
Right.
Yeah.
They said that I had a meeting with them. They even offered their support for this. And in all actuality, when I walked in the meeting with them, he said, "I've already got approval from the board to support this effort."
Wow.
Which was amazing. I was like, well, this is the easy sell and to do anything. But they said, well, we order new letterhead every 3 months. So
no
I'm
big
like,
deal.
if the big guy can do it, the little guy can do it, and the little guy can make more, can give a greater impact than the big guy sometimes.
Right.
You know, I always say you have to take care of the little people.
Well, sir,
thank you.
I appreciate your time. I do.
we do.
You're
Thank
a
you
busy
for having
man
me.
and you are on a mission. And we are definitely in support of and want a T-shirt. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Please,
Absolutely. I
and thank you
appreciate
for the
it.
T-shirt.
Thank you all for having me at the battle station because this is my first time, but it won't be my last.
This is not your first time here. You cooked.
On the mic it is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so okay. So since he brought that up,
on the mic,
since he
my
brought
last-
that up,
my first.
just so that you all aware, you know, this is Soulful Conversations. We have soulful conversations
Where is
about
this going?
things that matter most to people.
Absolutely.
And before we did mic check,
Don't.
Mr. Harris
She's gonna do it to me.
Don't do it.
She's trying to do
unloaded.
it to me. She's right.
She gonna do it.
Ladies,
Don't do it.
he
Don't do it.
unloaded
Don't do it.
some
Come on,
tomfoolery. in here that he gonna have to sweep all of this tomfoolery up and take it with him. But we were talking about being single. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna throw him out there. I'm gonna throw him out there that Mr. David Harris Jr. is gonna have to come back.
He's gonna come back,
and he is gonna have to say what he said in the microphone.
A soulful conversation
before we started recording.
It's gonna be a soulful conversation. We thank each and every one of you.
The brothers, see how what happens when it's two brothers, when it's two against one. My husband trying to save him, but ladies, I'm gonna tell y'all,
you going back.
The brother came with some mess, and we gonna go there when he comes back.
It's another Soulful Conversation episode coming soon.
After the name change and everything,
and it's not
celebration,
it's just a possible perspective.
See. Now, see, I was going.
See, they do this. They do this. This is like brothers.
We fight. But we gonna fight on the mic because you started something.
Well,
we gonna fight on the mic, and we gonna let y'all. We gonna let y'all in on it.
But we changed lives together, though.
We do.
We've changed lives together.
We appreciate you, Mr. Dave Harris Jr. for coming out. He came straight from the tennis court tonight.
Yes, I did. Bird Park Tennis Courts.
Bird Park Tennis Courts, and we thank you for.
Was denied.
He was denied the Bird Park.
See, now how you gonna drop a line like that?
Well, it's in the books.
It's in the books. Okay.
It's in the book. Okay.
Google it, family.
There it is.
Google it.
There it is. So
iconic figure, full support of. Changing the name of the boulevard to the Arthur Ashe Boulevard. Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
You and I will fight when the mic goes out.
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Not family, physically, though.
No. It's a war of the words.
Non-violent.
Did Martin Luther King just walk through here? Okay. All right, family. Thank you so much. Please like, share this podcast, especially if you are from Central Virginia. And you want to support David Harris in his effort, in his family, in their efforts.
Yes.
You can send your questions, comments, or concerns to us, and we will make sure that those get forwarded to David and his team that are working on this. We love y'all. This was good. This was supposed to be a quick PSA, and we're grateful that he availed himself to come by the battle station and speak into the mic. But we love y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Be well, family, and take care.
We will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.